Did you know that your blood sugar can be completely normal and you can still have insulin resistance? If insulin had a job description, it might be similar to an air traffic controller. It sees incoming glucose on the runway and directs it to specific gates like muscles, the liver, and fat cells. It regulates the amount of glucose flying through the blood vessels and makes sure cells have enough fuel for the flight. But what happens when your body becomes resistant to insulin? And why does that happen? Healthy isn't just what you do, it's who you become. I'm Dr. Vicki, and this is Healthy Looks Great on You, a lifestyle medicine podcast to help you reclaim your energy, your focus, and your well-being. Life tested, doctor approved. Knock, knock. Who's there? Sugar. Sugar who? Sugar you and type 2 diabetes, that is. Insulin resistance is the main driver of type 2 diabetes. Now, this differs from type 1 diabetes, and maybe it's best to jump right into endocrinology and learn more in mini medical school. Insulin is made in the pancreas by beta cells within little clusters of cells known as the islets of Langerhans. Paul Langerhans discovered them while he was still in medical school. So, no telling what you'll come up with in mini medical school. Maybe the islets of Casper exist somewhere in the body. I don't know, but right now a couple of weeks on the islands of Maldives sounds better to me. Oh wait, that's isles. These are islets, but hold on to that thought and we'll come back to it. Back to the pancreas and insulin production. When insulin isn't being made, that's type 1 diabetes, and it's thought to have an autoimmune trigger that attacks the pancreas, resulting in near zero production of insulin. But when there's plenty of insulin and it's not effective, that is type 2 diabetes. The underlying pathology in type 2 diabetes is insulin resistance. You've got all these cells standing around just totally blowing off insulin's efforts to move glucose out of the bloodstream and into the cells where it can be used. And the pancreas is really a responsible organ, so it tries to compensate by cranking out more insulin, and the cells are like, bro, you're not the boss of me. So all that sugar just loiters around in the blood vessels and nerves, wreaking havoc on just about every street corner, blood vessel, and organ, like the brain, heart, kidneys, and eyes. But type 2 diabetes doesn't just show up overnight. It's the result of persistent defiance of insulin. Eventually, all the heroic efforts of the pancreas may wear out, so it can't keep up anymore, and now you've got insulin deficiency plus resistance. Insulin's job description includes storing surplus glucose in the fat cells, communicating to the liver when extra energy stores are needed, and it's on the protein metabolism team too. According to the American Diabetes Association, over 115 million Americans have prediabetes, and 80% of them don't even know it. And if you have prediabetes, you need to know, because that means it's not too late, but it's certainly not too early either. The earlier you make lifestyle changes, the better. But doctors don't usually diagnose insulin resistance because the hard-working pancreas compensates for those stubborn cells that won't let glucose in by making more insulin, at least for a while, and that works. It keeps the blood sugar levels normal. So it's a progression from insulin resistance to prediabetes to full-blown type 2 diabetes. Doctors do sometimes diagnose prediabetes by checking labs. Your fasting blood sugar should be less than 100, and if it's over 100 and less than 125, that's in the range for prediabetes. Other tests include a hemoglobin A1C. This is the test you can run from, but you can't hide, because it measures the average percentage of hemoglobin, which is in red blood cells, that is coated with glucose or sugar over the past 2 to 3 months. And it should be less than 5.7, and if it's between 5.7 and 6.4, that is considered prediabetes. And once it gets over 6.5%, then you've moved on to type 2 diabetes. According to the International Diabetes Federation, 1 in 9 adults across the globe has diabetes, and 541 million have impaired glucose tolerance. You probably won't be surprised to learn that number is increasing. Sometimes doctors do check fasting insulin levels, especially if you're high risk, but that is less common. Let's talk about those risks. Wait for it. No, I mean WEIGHT, weight. Because in particular, excess weight increases your risk for type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance. But it's really more about body composition. You see, fat, especially visceral fat, which is the kind you can't see because it's on the inside of your belly, but also abdominal fat, which you can see right there at your waistline, increases the risk for insulin resistance. And more than 35 inches around the middle for women and more than 40 inches for men increases your risk significantly. Muscle plays a role too because it's a big old glucose sink. The less you have, the less defense you have for combating insulin resistance. Building muscle doesn't just mean going to the gym or pounding the pavement. Movement helps. Any kind of movement. But a sedentary lifestyle increases the risk of insulin resistance, especially over time. You want to know what else increases your risk for insulin resistance and prediabetes? Birthdays. Yes, birthday cake and ice cream with added sugars and unhealthy fats, but also the more candles on your cake, the higher your risk. Happy birthday to you. And be mindful of who gave birth to you too, because a family history of type 2 diabetes ups your risk, whether it's from mom or dad's side. Certain ethnic groups have a higher risk too, so sorry if no one told you all of that before you chose your parents. And if you had gestational diabetes when you were pregnant, add another tally mark in the risk column. Metabolic syndrome is kind of an umbrella term that includes high blood pressure, high triglycerides, high blood sugar, low HDL, or good cholesterol. And crowded under that umbrella are other conditions that increase your risk, like polycystic ovarian syndrome and sleep apnea. Medications can also increase the risk for type 2 diabetes. Ask me how I know. For a year and a half, I took a huge dose of prednisone for an autoimmune disease called myasthenia gravis, and I developed steroid-induced diabetes. I would wake up in the morning and my blood sugar was 70. I would eat breakfast and it would shoot to 300. I was on 2 oral medications and insulin shots, and I felt terrible. But here's the deal. At first, you might not have any symptoms, even though you have chronic inflammation and cellular stress. Eventually, you may have increased sleepiness, frequent urination, and excessive thirst. Another symptom as things progress is hunger. But wait, why would having too much sugar in your system make you hungry? That is an excellent question. You see, even though insulin is trying to sweet talk fat, muscle, and liver cells into letting that glucose in, we've changed the lock on the door and sugar can't get in. And basically, your cells are starving. So if you're at risk, see your healthcare provider and make sure your blood sugar levels are normal. And even if they are, controlling your weight and exercising can prevent insulin resistance. At this point, you may be asking, wait, what else can I do? Well, the first step is if you aren't already on my newsletter list, then go to healthylooksgreatonyou.com or check the link in the show notes. Because next week, we're talking about reversing insulin resistance. Yes, reversing it. And if you're ready to go even deeper, the doors to the next Healthy Looks Great on You lab open April 24th with a kickoff on May 1st. And in the month of May, we're going to focus on glucose metabolism all month long. There's a link for that in the show notes too, but you can go to healthylooksgreatonyou.com/the-lab/ for all the details. And let's do this together and get healthy. because healthy looks great on you. In case you haven't heard about the Healthy Looks Great on You lab, here's a little more information. The lab is not where you go to get your blood work done. In fact, there are no needles in the lab. The Healthy Looks Great on You lab is a private, exclusive Facebook group for women only. Sorry, guys. Where you learn what you need to do to get healthier, but more important, you learn how to do it. And let's be honest, that's the hard part. Here's how it works. On Sunday, we start with sustenance, and then we get Monday motivation, which tees up the topic and the theme for the week. Tuesday is the big day where there's a teaching video. Then on Wednesday, you get a weekly challenge. Thursday is 3 action steps. Friday is your feedback day, and Saturday is where we share what we've accomplished or what we're still struggling with. That's where you get community and built-in accountability, which really helps you move forward in your health journey. For a limited time, you can still join for $19 a month. After June, only the quarterly and annual subscriptions will be available. So if you're thinking about just trying it out, hop in now and you get to keep the monthly price of $19 a month. So check it out. Come join the Healthy Looks Great on You lab, where we get healthy together, moving from what you want to do to actually doing it, one doable step at a time. Go to healthylooksgreatonyou.com/the-lab/ for all the details. The information contained in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not considered to be a substitute for medical advice. You should continue to follow up with your physician or healthcare provider and take medication as prescribed. Though the information in this podcast is evidence-based, new research may develop and recommendations may change.